This is the video I wish I'd seen before I decided to leave my nursing job back in 2021. So back in 2021, I decided to leave my nursing job, but up until last year, I felt like I had always regretted that decision. I was so influenced by so many things, like the people that are around me, that I saw on social media, that I feel like I never truly made that decision by myself. So yes, even though I did hate my job, I still feel that I wish I'd done something different. Of course, I no longer regret this decision because by leaving my nursing job, I had learned to stand up on my own 2 feet. I learned what the nursing profession meant to me, and I learned so many things about myself. But if you're someone who is thinking of quitting the nursing professions, or you just don't know what path to take, then I think that you can learn a lot from my mistakes. In this video, we're going to cover all the things in order for you to become an anti-fragile individual. That means that you are someone who will never leave without options, because at the end of the day, the more options that we have when it comes to our life, the better we are at. We're never going to be stuck in one position, in one thing. So you hate nursing, now what? The first question that you need to answer is, how do you see nursing or your position? So when I was in my nursing job, I had this narrow view of nursing. I thought that being an ER nurse was the most legitimate specialty out there when it comes to nursing. If I wasn't an ER nurse, then I didn't think that any other specialty counted. I honestly think that this was more of a pride thing, and it's a very arrogant way of seeing a specialty, and it just causes you so much mental anxiety. At one point, I had a nursing identity crisis because I didn't want to be an ER nurse anymore, but I had associated my identity with becoming an ER nurse. So terrible way of seeing the nursing profession, that specialty. Anyways, because I didn't want to become an ER nurse anymore, I had this view that the whole nursing industry was poisoned or toxic, and that no other nursing specialty could fulfill my needs. But as soon as I left that nursing environment and I moved on to a different nursing environments, I soon learned that the whole industry is not toxic or poison. I actually love being a nurse again, especially being a travel nurse. So I came to the conclusion that I actually did not hate the profession, and I did not hate nursing. So if you hate your job right now, or if you hate the profession, the industry, I need you to think about what specifically do you hate about the job. Is it the day-to-day tasks? Is it doing assessments of patients? Is it doing their vitals, giving their medications, doing all these nice things for a person who's sick? Or do you hate the stuff where kind of feel disrespected, the colleagues don't disrespect you, the system is kind of terrible, and all these other things that does not directly relate to your day-to-day tasks? Because if you hate the day-to-day tasks, then yes, maybe nursing is not for you. But if you don't mind it, if you like it, if you get satisfaction or fulfillment from doing your nursing tasks, then maybe it is the other issue that you have where you just don't like the workplace that you're in. And in that case, then quitting the profession is probably not the best answer for you or the best solution for you, but rather it is to do other stuff around it, which we're going to talk about for the rest of this video. So what are your options? Option number 1 is to work less. The beautiful thing about nursing is the flexibility. I don't know any other profession that provide the flexibility that nursing has. You don't have to work full-time in nursing if you don't want to. You can work part-time, you can work casual nursing if you're in Canada, or if you're in the US, I think they call it something called per diem. Basically, you go to work on as-needed basis. When you work part-time, you essentially distance yourself from the hospital, from the job, from the task that you don't love doing, or that environment that you don't like being in, and you can do whatever time you want in that spare time that you now have. You can either work on yourself, take care of yourself, compose yourself, or you can also work on other things that are of your interest. You can start writing, you can start creating content, you can start a business, you can make time for relationships that you have abandoned because of your job, or you can even decide to do nothing. Just because you're working less in your primary job, you don't have to fill every single hour that you're free with something else that is work. The point of working less is that you learning that you have a control or sense of control over your life, that you can choose when to go in, you can choose to be there. And just by the mere fact that you are choosing to be there is already a sense of control that a lot of jobs don't have. If you are working 9 to 5 and if you hate it, if you don't have that option of working less, that's a really disempowering way to put yourself in, or circumstance, whatever. But if you are choosing to be there, then you just show up better in in a more happier way. I remember I would choose the shifts that I would go in from my nursing job, and just the mere fact that I'm choosing to go there twice a week was already so much better, because now I can tell myself, nobody told me to be here. I actually chose to be here. Again, sense of control, very important. Your second option when it comes to this whole industry is to work less and start a side hustle. Starting a side hustle was the best thing that I have ever done in my nursing career. So when I decided to start my side hustle, it was something that I have been thinking about for almost, I want to say 4 years. And I wish I had just started, because all of this overthinking, all of this judgment, or thinking that other people are going to judge me, I could have overcame those, because at the end of the day, you're going to have them regardless. It's not like the judgment or the fear is going to go away and then you can start. It's actually the other way. You start doing the thing, and then the fear of judgment of other people goes away. You start to see yourself better. You start to see yourself in a more positive way. And then suddenly all the voices that are in your head dissipates. So during the pandemic, I finally decided to start my side hustle of travel influencing. I'm not a travel influencer. That totally failed. I pivoted into coaching. I pivoted into blogging or writing. And now I'm doing YouTube. I mean, there's so many other things that I have done, but the point is I got started, and then I pivoted until I found something that I liked. So I was doing all of these side hustles while I was still a nurse, or I'm still a nurse. I'm still doing nursing, and I'm still doing this whole side hustle thing. But the point is that if you start a side hustle while you are in your nursing job, you give yourself so many options. So for example, when I learned how to write, I learned how to sell my services as a freelance writer. And now that I know how to make YouTube content, I can sell my services as a video editor. And all of these skills that I'm learning in my side hustle, I'm basically gaining skills, and I can always turn them into money, or I can always turn them into service. So I now know that if I completely leave the nursing professions, I will never be without option. I will know how to make money. I will know how to basically provide for myself, because you never ever want to leave yourself in a situation where you don't have any option. And that is the point of this video, is to give yourself as much options as possible. Anyways, long story short, I was able to match my part-time nursing salary with my freelance writing, and that's how I was able to quit my job. And think about that for a second. I was someone who went to university for 4 years in nursing, and I was making this much money. And then I taught myself how to write for 6 months. And then by year 1 of that writing hobby, I was able to match my nursing salary. I mean, to me, that still sounds crazy. I still can't believe I was able to do that, but that is the reality of it. Starting a side hustle, definitely recommended if you have been thinking about it. Option number 3 is to become a travel nurse. If you hate your current staff job, you've probably thought about becoming a travel nurse, and maybe you are scared to do it and you don't know how to go about it. And maybe you don't even know what a travel nurse is. Basically, travel nurses are people who go into different provinces, countries, whatever, and they relieve the staffing shortages that hospital has. So I was a travel nurse in Nova Scotia, in Northern Ontario. I was basically acting like an agency nurse for that hospital or that facility so that I can provide my nursing services. So I'm basically a staff nurse, but in a different hospital, in a different city or province. There's so many benefits when it comes to becoming a travel nurse. Number 1, the money. You get paid way more than a staff nurse. You get paid, I want to say, starting double the price to triple or maybe quadruple the price, depending on where you are. And you get so much more respect from the people that you are working with, because you are there as someone who will help their staffing problems. You get so much flexibility. You choose where to work and how long you want to work for. But there are also a lot of cons. I actually talked a very in-depth version of this in my How Travel Nursing Changed My Life. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. In general, becoming a travel nurse has really nice upsides, but even though the money is really nice, there are downsides to it as well. Number 1, being away from your friends and family, and depending how close you are with your family, this might be really hard on you. And I know a lot of travel nurses who actually decided to come back to become staff nurses again just because they love the sense of community. And that's also why I've stopped doing travel nursing, even though I made a lot of money from it. I decided that stability, being close to my family, to my husband, is more important to me than money. But if you are young, I actually have a different advice for you. I would say get your 2 years of experience in whatever specialty you want to do, emergency, med surg, mental health, so many specialties out there, and go travel nurse. Learn as much as possible in your current job job right now and actually go out there, because you're going to learn so much more as a travel nurse and you're going to make as much money as possible. If you don't know what to do with your career, doing travel nursing has helped me be exposed to so many different nursing specialties and industry out there that I honestly wish I knew about it. That was the only downside to this whole thing. I didn't know that this profession or this industry, this other side of nursing existed, and that was really unfair and not cool. And that's why I'm here talking about this to you, so that you can learn that there are other stuff or other options out there. But if you have different life goals, if you want to start a family soon, if you want to basically settle down or settling down, then travel nursing is not sustainable, and that is why I need another option. Option number 4 is to switch your specialty. One other beautiful thing about nursing is the flexibility of specialties. You know how they say it, that if you have a job, you have no job security? I totally disagree with that when it comes to nursing. If you have a nursing degree under your belt, you are pretty much secured for your life, unless obviously you decide that it's not for you, then you are not secured. But that's why we're talking about this. As a nurse, you can get fired, you can quit, you can switch specialties. It might take you a week or even 1 year to get a job, but eventually you're gonna get it. You might have to take courses, certifications, do all this other extracurricular stuff to make your skills or resume a little bit more enticing for the employer, but eventually you're gonna get that job. And if you decide that you no longer want that specialty, guess what? There are hundreds of nursing specialty out there. You can work in outpatient, you can work in clinics, you can work in health insurances, you can work in schools, you can work in different homes, in the community, in movies, in film sets. I now work as a recovery nurse in private dental offices, and I did not know that this position existed before. I just kind of fell into it. This job is so much less stressful. I pick my own hours. I can travel whatever I want. I don't have a boss. I basically am a self-employed nurse. And the best part is that the doctors and patients are happy to see you, because guess what? I hold the drugs to actually sedate them and make them happy and comfortable during their dental procedures. So if you're unhappy with your job right now, maybe you don't actually need to switch out completely. Maybe you just need to switch the specialty that you're in. This is why it's so important to answer the first question at the very beginning of this video, which is, how do you see your position? How do you see nursing? Because if I had wanted to switch specialty during my ER nurse years, I probably would have had difficulty, because I would have probably not considered this a real job, because I'm like, this is way too easy. This is not stressful. This is not real nursing. And once I got out of that mindset and did a shift in my thinking, then I can now embody the version of me where I'm a nurse and my skills are valuable, even though I don't work in the hospital anymore. So what if you have tried all of it and you find that it is just not working out for you? You've done all of these things that I've said and you still hate the profession, or you still can't find something that is for you or that fits you. So the best option, and probably your last option, is to leave the profession altogether. I honestly wouldn't recommend this until you have tried every single thing out there. I told you at the very beginning of this video that I had quit my nursing job and I regretted it immediately. One day, if and when I decide to leave the nursing profession completely, I want to be able to tell myself that I have completely tried everything that I could in order for me to love and stay in the profession. And I did everything to the best of my ability so that I wouldn't have any regrets. So a lot of the people that I went to school with and I've actually worked with have left the profession or the specialty, but had stayed in the healthcare profession. Some of them went into the admin roles, some of them went to project management roles, some of them switched to different specialties. I personally don't know anyone who has completely abandoned the profession altogether, but I know this is because people are building their lives on the side. So before you decide to actually leave the profession, really ask yourself, what is it that you're working towards? What is my dream life? How does nursing fit into this? Is it something that's going to help me in the short term, but not really in the long term? Or you want to do it forever, or you don't want to do it forever, and this is just something that you're going to do until one of your other things on the side actually takes off. Ask yourself, what is it that nursing is doing for you, and how is it serving you right now towards your dream life? And also, there's actually a few things that you need to consider before you actually leave the profession. There are 3 things that I wish I knew or I had considered before I left. Number 1 is financial goals. If you become a self-employed self-employed nurse, it's going to be hard for you to actually buy a house, buy a car. Basically, if you need the bank's help, it's going to be harder because they need proof that you have a secure job, you have predictable income. And if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're agency, or if you are self-employed, that's going to be hard for you to prove unless you have been a profitable business in the last 5 years. Thankfully, before this has all happened, I'd already bought a condo with my husband, so I didn't have to overcome that challenge. But I do know a lot of travel nurses that I had met on the road that have problems or are worried that they cannot secure a loan. The other thing when it comes to finances is that when you leave your job, you are losing benefits or health insurances, pension plans. These are things that you are giving up when you leave your job. So really make sure that you are ready for this step. And because I was young when I did it, it obviously did not matter. I'm still young. It still doesn't matter as much for me, but it is something that I constantly think about. The other thing is when you become a self-employed nurse or you leave your job, you really have to be on top of your finances, because now you are doing your own taxes, you are doing your own accounting, you basically need to know every dollar that comes into your account and every dollar that goes out. So you have a lot of responsibilities when it comes to finances. So if you're someone who doesn't like doing finances, now is the time to actually up your skills and actually learn to love it or embrace it, because it's crucial. The second thing you need to consider when it comes to quitting is family goals. When you decide to leave your job, you are also giving up your benefits of having a mat leave and pat leave. And this is something that I kind of regret now, but I wish I had kept or really pushed myself to stay a casual nurse in the previous facility that I was working in, so that I could take advantage of the mat leave. As a self-employed nurse, now I have to figure out a way to save up for the money that I would take in order for me to take my mat leave, because again, no one is going to look out for you. If you are young, this doesn't apply to you. I mean, I did quit when I was young and I wasn't thinking of family planning, but now that I'm getting older, this is something that I am thinking of and something that I wish I had known. So before you quit, ask yourself, when do you want to start a family? Do you even want to start a family? If so, how can you make nursing work for you? The third thing that I wish I'd considered is that switching specialties is harder when you are outside of a hospital or when you're no longer working in a hospital. As a travel RN and an agency nurse, I learned more about the specialties that I liked and didn't like. Now that I no longer work in a hospital, it is harder for me to actually switch specialties. If I wanted to apply to become, let's say, a PACU nurse, a recovery nurse, because I found out that I like doing recovery, it's harder for me to actually apply to a hospital versus someone who is doing an internal switch. It doesn't matter how good your skills are or if you have a lot of experience. Internal applicants are always going to have an unfair advantage just because that's how the system works, and especially if the hospital is unionized. If you had quit your job and you have moved on to something else, or maybe you are a nurse and you're doing something on the side, let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear your experience. But I hope that you like this video, it resonated with you, that you take it one day at a time, you be kind to yourself, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.